Okay, we are back. And I think at the end of the last video I mentioned that I was going to pre-assemble the pit guard and do some dry fits on that. But I'm going to change things up a bit. The customer has decided that they want an arm contour on this. So we've got the walnut top over the spalted alder. And the stains that we're going to be doing on that is a really beautiful contrast. We're going to have a darker walnut stain on almost like a honey or butterscotch alder stain on the back. And so that contrast, he actually saw a guitar, I don't know if I mentioned this, he saw a guitar in a shop, it was a Stratocaster. And he's like, I want a guitar just like that one, but I want it dirty, I want it in a deluxe Telecaster style. And here we are doing the custom job on that. But that contrast between the two, he had said that was what made it stand out to him. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a slight arm contour on here. And that's going to kind of help those colors contrast and pop. Plus, it's a kind of a cool custom thing to do. And on Telecasters, unlike Stratocasters where there's no belly contour and there's no arm contour, when you're playing, if you're playing a lot and resting your arm there, it's just more comfortable to have this kind of angled off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our files and let's see, what's this one here, and we're going to contour this. So what we've done, let me just pick this up for just a second and show. We've got the lines, and I actually went over this with the customer. He knows this is about where he wants it. It's just a very slight one. And then this is how deep we're going on it. So I'm going to use that as kind of a gauge of where to start and stop my angles. And we can go heavier with some heavier rasps on this. Just to hog away a little bit more wood, and then we'll eventually taper down into the cross grits and then the finer. So I'll put this back, show just a little bit of us doing this. It's a little boring, not a lot new going on with that, but I'll show a bit of it here. Alright, so I did a quick FaceTime call with the customer. Wanted to just double check that this was about the angle that he wanted it. So we actually pulled it back just a little bit. And really beautiful contrast here. That's really going to pop. So anytime that I do any drastic changes filing to the body, I always take some sandpaper and round the corners just a little bit. Eventually when we get into doing the finishing, the staining, and especially the poly, when you're doing the clear coat, you can't have very sharp edges because the lacquer tends to build up on certain points and thin out on really sharp points. So if you have a really thin corner, the lacquer is going to not coat very much on that area. And by the time that you do sanding to, wet sanding to make it smooth, and you have to do that. I mean, you take off a certain section each time, so you're going to sand through on thin spots. So that's part of the reason why there's some rounded edges on the sides. Even on a Telecaster, it's only a 1/8 roundover bit, but that's enough to still give it a good sharp edge, but to not feel sharp and to allow for no sand through when you're doing the poly. But we're looking at the guitar just as is. This is going to be the highlight point. That contrast is going to be night and day. Dark and then an amber butterscotch look. And I love the pattern that's popping through on that. Now something else to note out here. You can see this is where I drew my line. And this is actually where the corner breaks, where I filed to that edge. So it's a good straight line here. If you notice that your contrast line is not incredibly straight, Sometimes you don't want it that way. Sometimes you want it to kind of follow a curve. But if you wanted to straighten that out, all you got to do is go back in with a file. I would use something smaller, easier to handle, and with a little bit smoother edge. And just start filing that, and it will recontour that line to where you get it straight. And the best way to do that is take a pencil, mark one end, mark your other end, make sure that it's symmetrical, so you could actually take your calipers, your micrometer, and measure the distance to make sure it's equal on both sides, and then draw yourself a straight line between the two edges, and then you use that point to file up to that mark. And that's the way that you can straighten the line out if you wanted to do that. I will probably do that just to keep this nice and chic. Good straight lines. So anyway, that's pretty much wrapping up this video. It's a little bit shorter video. And it was just on a small section of getting this contour there, but it's all a part of the process. So we'll see you in the next video.